Welcome to the Like Men Podcast. I'm Logan Ingram.
And I'm Daniel Challenberg.
And we're here to explore what it means to live out true masculinity. This podcast is about us becoming the men that God wants us to be, and hopefully y'all joining us on the way.
Yeah, and if you're enjoying the show, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Do you have any banter you want to talk about?
My brain is like so foggy.
Yeah.
I was at a retreat.
Oh yeah, how'd that go?
This last weekend in Louisiana. It was good. But it was, hectic, 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And then
were you leading it or just a participant?
Participating as a helper.
Okay.
Yeah, as a team member.
Gotcha.
Yeah, helping. I was on hospitality, so like making sure that people had coffee, had food, trash was taken out, tables were clean, stuff like that.
Cool. What was the retreat called?
It's called a live retreats.
Okay.
It's it was with White's Ferry Road in West Monroe, Louisiana.
Cool.
Yeah. It was good. I'm not allowed to talk about it.
You
like
are
what,
or are not?
Not.
Oh.
Like about what happens there.
Okay.
And because they don't want you to come in with any expectations or saying, well, I'm not going to do that, so I'm not going to go.
Sure. Okay.
So
is that with the Robertsons or is that a different congregation?
I mean, they're there with that church. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, that's like, I think they're a huge sponsor of the camp that it was held at. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Would you recommend the retreat to others?
I would. Yeah, we held one here in Searcy a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And White's Ferry Road guys came up and helped us.
Cool.
But then we're going to do a women's and a men's in October.
Very cool.
Yep.
Here in Searcy? Or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay, so we had a listener, good buddy of mine, suggest a topic for us today. His name is Ike. He's a good time listener. And his suggestion was protecting others or protecting the vulnerable with the armor of God or in correlation with the armor of God, which was very interesting to me because we had planned on talking about protecting the vulnerable at some point. I had not thought about combining it with the armor of God.
Yeah.
Because anytime I'd ever heard anybody talking about the armor of God, it had always been you put this armor on and this is going to protect you and this is how you fight your spiritual battle. And to be fair and to be clear, the armor of God is there to protect us against evil and to help us fight this spiritual war, which we are involved in, whether we recognize it or not. But to actually combine it and look at it from the perspective of we should protect the vulnerable with the armor of God. And I thought that was interesting because you've got a soldier wears his armor to fight the enemy, but he's fighting for something. He's fighting for someone or he's fighting to protect someone. And I never really, in all of my studies and in all of the devos and sermons I'd listened to growing up, the armor of God was never extended past the initial, put this on so you can fight again. You can fight temptation. You can fight evil.
Yeah, I've never heard of it any other way. Than that. Yeah.
And then having it extend out to, and it makes complete sense because practically nowhere else in Scripture does it ever talk God is not about us being selfish and only looking at ourselves. It's always about look outward and help others and take care of people. It's always been outwardly focused and never been inwardly focused. And so I don't know why I had never really considered that the armor of God is also outwardly focused.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes it to a new level that, we're not familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very true. I mean, it's, why you're not just fighting, you're fighting for a reason. You're not just fighting to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't all be self-centered. We can't just be fighting for ourselves and our own salvation all the time. We're supposed to be protecting the vulnerable and looking out for the least of these. And so at some point we do have to fight for other people. And I think that's I've been trying to do more of that, is instead of me just looking inwardly, trying to just fix myself only, like as I'm fixing myself, I'm reaching out to others and trying to bring them along with me, or share some, if I've learned anything, share it with them.
Mhm.
But also you learn that as we're seeking to, even, maybe we have a spiritual mentor in our lives or something. Well, it's actually, if we are asking for guidance and wisdom from other people that are older than us or been through more life experiences, whatever we need to learn from, it helps, it strengthens them to be able to share that also. But yeah, I think it's important, definitely not to be self-centered enough that we don't look at it like that.
Yeah.
That we do, as we grow in our spirituality and as we grow our own strength in Christ, that we share that with other people.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess let's read it.
Let's do it.
You want to read it or you want me to?
I can do it.
All right.
All right, Ephesians 6, starting in verse 10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit and with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints, and also for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak.
So first I want to throw out verse 13, where it says, therefore put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. I thought it was a neat little tie-in to the name of our podcast, Stand Like Men. Yeah. Just thought it was neat.
It is neat.
When I was reading it this afternoon, I was thinking, he's saying, like, when you've done everything in your power and you are at your weakest, just stand there.
Yeah.
Just
I think
stand
it's
up, and
very important.
you don't, like, even if you can't fight or you can't run or whatever, just stand. And like, we as men, like, it is oftentimes we are going to get beaten down. We are going to get like overwhelmed. That doesn't give us an excuse to just lay down. Like, we still have a responsibility to stand.
Yep.
That's not I just wanted to throw that out there real quick because I thought it was mildly relevant. I do want to look at verse 12 real quick. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm. So when we look at this armor, these items in the armor of God, we should recognize and remember that this armor is used to fight against evil forces, not against other people. You go to it's easy to see it in social media, so I'll just use that as a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Like, you go to social media and it's very easy to fight against somebody there.
Oh yeah.
And it's
keyboard warriors.
Oh yeah. And it's very easy to like pick a fight with them and just go off and view them as an agent of evil. That's not, and view them as someone that you need to fight with. And that's not what we're here for. Like, we're not here to fight with other people. We're here to fight against the evil spiritual forces that are in the world. Our culture wants to divide us, and our culture wants to basically they've set up like a demographic war where like, they just keep drawing lines. And if you don't agree with me on a particular issue or opinion or thought, then you're my enemy. And so like, if you didn't vote for the same candidate that I voted for, then we're enemies.
Yeah.
And it extends way past political issues. It can go into social issues. It can go into opinions about TV shows or video games or sports teams. And what the culture is doing is it keeps drawing these lines saying, like, if they don't agree with you, then they're your enemy. And we usually only look at like one or two areas that we're fighting against, but it ends up, if you like zoom out and you look at the bigger picture, we basically have become a demographic of one, and we've become isolated into, we can't agree, we can't be allies with anybody because we're enemies with everybody about something.
Yeah.
And our culture wants us to keep that separation and keep that isolation from everybody else because, and I believe it's a tactical decision made by the enemy to isolate us like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what almost all of his attacks are geared towards. Mm. It's because you can't have an army if everyone's fighting by themselves.
Yeah.
Just like you'll see it in NBA or NFL teams, like, or any other sports, of course. If each player is only in it for themselves, that team will never go anywhere. Mm-hmm. But if they're all working together, then, I mean, they win national championships, world championships, whatever. And I think that's absolutely how the devil fights us. Is he wants to break us down individually, keep us out of the fight. That's the whole point.
Definitely.
And that's what, you see it in the military. Generally if someone goes down, guys come back for them and help them along, protect them until they're able to, maybe they've just been stunned or something. But even if they're hurt, they got medics rush in and they have guys that are holding point and holding guard over that person. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're called to do to the vulnerable. Yeah. We see somebody stumbling, we're supposed to gather around them. We're not supposed to let them isolate. That's something that I neglected for so long in my life is if you're isolating yourself, like I did for so long, I'm not effective as a warrior myself, but then I can't help anybody else. Yeah. Like I'm in it for myself. It's like, that's, how selfish of me to be that way. Mm-hmm. All I'm concerned about is myself. I used to look at that like, well, I'm not bothering anybody. I'm the least selfish person I know because I'm not demanding things of others. I'm not taking others' time. Well, that's really not what was happening. I was taking myself out of the world and out of other people's lives and not sharing with them the good stuff I do know.
Yeah. So let's just talk about each item one at a time and kind of expand on that. So starting with the belt of truth. The thing with belts is, at least in Roman armor, is it was foundational. Like everything tied to the belt. And then everything was like the breastplate clipped to the belt, the pants, kilt, whatever they wore, apron, skirt,
toga.
I'm gonna skip over this confusion. I didn't bother looking up like what Roman armor actually looked like. It was,
well, you use the belt to gird your loins.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was pulling up whatever they call the outfit that you would wear. And it was long. They didn't wear pants and like jeans like we wear today. Yeah. And so the belt was, you girded your loins, which was you pulled up the cloth underneath your legs, kind of made shorts or pants, and then tied it up with a belt. Yeah. And then everything else tied from there. Yeah.
So the belt was foundational to the armor.
Yes.
Like you could not gird the loins. You could not keep the breastplate in place without the belt fastened.
Yeah, that's where your sword hung.
Yeah, sword hung there. Like everything was clipped to that. And I don't think it's an accident that Paul started there, because I think he would have known that the belt is the foundation for.
The siren's super loud.
Yeah, it's super long too. It's like, get a move on. Okay, what was?
We do not have a soundproof studio. We do the best we can.
We don't. What was it? So I don't think it was an accident that Paul started with the belt, because he knew that that was foundational to the Romans' armor, and he knew that everything started there. And from there, he's like, okay, so what's foundational to our faith and what's foundational to our Christian lives? And it's truth.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
God,
nothing can come off of that.
no,
I mean, if you don't have the truth, nothing else works.
there's no such thing as righteousness. There's no salvation. There's no peace. There's nothing if you don't have truth first. Yep. So I think that was great. Good job, Paul.
Yep. All right. What about
the siren's back?
Okay. What about the breastplate of righteousness? I struggle with the word righteousness.
Yeah.
And I always have. In the verse, like, no one will die for a righteous man, but for a good man, one might give his own life.
Yeah.
So that verse confuses me.
Yeah.
And then, we hear self-righteous all the time, and that's a negative connotation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't understand. Like, how do you, God is righteous. Jesus threw the temple into array from righteous anger and zeal for his Father's house. Like, so how does that, what does righteous mean?
According to Mr. Google, it's the quality of being morally right or justifiable. So in a self-righteous, it's you're justifying your actions based on your own standard rather than any other moral code.
Yeah.
And then for a righteous man, someone might die, but for a righteous man, no one would die for a righteous man. Like no one's going to die for someone who's just like morally right or justifiable. But for a good man who is like, seems like good is more than righteous.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's a self-righteousness aspect to when they use the word righteousness in that verse. Is because I don't know, people who are self-righteous, like, you don't want to help them.
Or your actions have to be justified in order to be considered righteous.
Yeah.
Like, because the Bible talks about Abraham did such and so and this and this and this, and it was credited to him as righteousness.
Yes.
It was credited to him as justifiable or as good, as morally right.
Mm-hmm. And how do you even become righteous if you don't have the truth? Like, you really can't.
You can't.
You can't do, like we're talking about self-righteousness, and we justify ourselves on our own morals and stuff. And generally, when people are self-righteous, it's a negative connotation. People don't like them because it's not based on actual truth. It's based on, their personal truth or something. And so it's not true righteousness, probably. And so, again, going back to the truth is foundational to being righteous. And it's not even, we're none of these actually like become us, I guess, if that's a good way to put it. Like, just because we're wearing the armor of God, we're not perfect. So we're not righteous.
Yeah.
We're using the breastplate of righteousness. We're not righteous just because we have the armor of God on. That doesn't make us righteous.
Yeah.
Like wearing the belt of truth doesn't make every word that comes out of my mouth truth.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an important distinction is that, putting on the breastplate does not make us righteous. It is righteousness. And that's from God. Truth is from God, righteousness from God, salvation later from God.
Yeah.
Like, it has nothing to do with us. We are just putting it on and using it to fight for the kingdom and fight for others.
Yeah. I'm with you now, because at first I was going to disagree with you, but you're saying that all of these things are from God. They're not from us.
Right.
And I
that's what
completely agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
I think that, that's a good point. Like, truth comes from God. It's not, probably in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about like lies that the enemy tells us. And one of them is my truth or your truth.
Yep.
And that's it. I'm going to choose not to go down that road yet, because that'll be another episode. Righteousness comes from God. A breastplate protects the heart and the vital organs, all the squishy bits. And like, if we're to extend out into like if if we were to extend the metaphor out, it's like it protects our emotions and motives and desires, and it protects us against guilt and shame and pride. If we are living a righteous life, then what is there to be guilty for? There is no shame, because we have it's fastened to truth. We know that our value comes from Christ. There is no pride, because we know that all the good deeds that we're doing are coming because the Spirit is living in us.
Exactly. Yeah, because you're looking at, the truth, belt of truth. It can't be our truth. Breastplate of righteousness is not us, our self-righteousness. Like we don't create a gospel for ourselves.
It's God's standard.
Shield of faith is not faith in ourselves. Salvation can't come from ourselves.
Yeah.
So the Spirit doesn't come from ourselves. The flesh is, full. The hearts of men are full of evil all the time.
Mm-hmm. I've been reading Mere Christianity.
I can't read that.
You can?
Oh wait, no, never mind. I'm sorry. That's not right. Wrong book.
Oh, okay. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis.
Yes. No, great book.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'd not read it before, and I like it because I like his stance of if you haven't read it or if you're not familiar with it, basically he's taking a very philosophical and logical approach to like being a Christian. Like he is a Christian. He used to be an atheist. He's dead now, but at the time of his writing, he was a Christian, and he's like, we're not gonna start with the Bible, because if you are not a Christian, then you're not going to believe the Bible. Like, we're not going to start there. We're just going to start with like what is a good person? Like, what's the law of nature? And how he describes it. Like, what is a good person? Well, if someone were to trip you, you would be upset with them. Well, why? Well, because you understood that to be wrong. Well, why would you consider that to be wrong? It's because we all have this understanding of what good is. There's a standard. And he takes a very logical and philosophical trip to basically establish that the only reason that we consider things to be right or wrong is because there is God. There is an ultimate supreme being, God, who has established a standard of what good is. And so when you say that our righteousness is not based on our own standard, it's based on God's, like it truly is, because without God, we would not know what good is. We would not know what morally right is, because there would be no standard. It would all be opinion-based.
Yeah, my notes have, it means, righteousness, it means living rightly according to God's standards. And we're guarding because the breastplate covers our heart, lungs, and all of that stuff. So we're guarding our heart from sin and guilt and shame and all of it. We're guarding the vital organs.
Mm-hmm. It's the truth is foundational. The breastplate protects our core. The next one is feet fitted with the readiness of the gospel of peace.
Something that just kind of hit me from some of these notes is, I know that when I don't feel peace and I have a ton of anxiety and fear, mm-hmm. I'm not standing firm really in anything. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like my world crumbles in that regard. Mm-hmm. And what do shoes help us do? Like in the mountains, I use shoes with stiff soles, stiff ankles to support me. You mm-hmm. give me a firm foundation to stand on.
Yep.
And I believe that if we're not grounded in peace, we can't, if fight or flight, look at that. Like, if we're afraid, we take off running.
Yeah.
And there goes our shoes. We can run right out of our shoes. We can't stand firm if we're just afraid.
Yeah.
Because we'll be moving back in the line. We'll be running.
I took a course in college called Stage Combat, where I learned how to make.
Did you really?
I was a theater major.
Yeah.
So I took Stage Combat, where I learned how to pretend to fight.
Yeah.
I learned how to make it look like I'm fighting somebody, not actually hurting them. And one thing that was important is that make sure we wore the right shoes. We always had to wear shoes. It had to be closed-toed shoes. It had to be the right type of shoes. And because as you're going to smack someone upside the head with a quarterstaff or you throw a punch or whatever. No one knows what a quarterstaff is.
That's okay.
Okay.
I do.
Oh, great. Yeah. As you're about to like throw your quarterstaff at someone, if you don't have the right footing, you can slip. And not only can you hurt yourself, but you can hurt the person that you're like fighting against. And again, number one rule of stage combat is no one actually gets hurt. It's like WWE. Like no one actually is supposed to get hurt in that because it's all supposed to be fake. It's just for entertainment purposes. In war, in the military, like they have like specific shoes and there's specific ways to care for those shoes so that like they're protected and so that they have a good footing and so that their shoes don't wear out and so that the shoes work with them and for them. Because if you don't have the right footing, then you're slipping.
And you can't stand firm.
You can't stand firm. I heard I don't know if this story is relevant or not, but it's a cool one. It was like one of these like discussions about like people in the military. What did you have to have your CO explain to you for it to finally make sense or whatever? And the guy was like, I never understood why we had to polish our shoes and why we had to our boots, why we had to do all of this maintenance for our boots, for all the inspections. We're just gonna be running through the mud again. Why do we have to do all this stuff? And finally, and I kept like not doing it. And finally the CEO came up to him and he's like, the reason we do this is because he's like, I did tours in this country, or this war, and this war, and all this. And I don't know how many men that I worked with that got trench foot and had other awful things happen to their feet because they didn't know how to take care of their boots. And so the reason we do the things like during basic training about you're going to polish your boots, you're going to take care of them, is so that when you're out on deployment, you can actually like your feet are not going to suffer during these very difficult conditions that you're under. When you're in a war zone, you don't have time for blisters. Like when someone is shooting at you and trying to kill you, you don't have time for blisters. Like it's not good. So you need to take care of your feet and you need to have the proper footwear. You need to make sure it's taken care of.
Yeah. No, so we've got to have good footing, and it's the shoes of the gospel of peace. Mm-hmm. So the gospel is, of course, the good news. Yeah, and that is we're all sinners. Mm-hmm. We don't deserve anything but death. Mm-hmm. Jesus came down and did that for us. Exactly. And that is something that we've got to, I don't know, that understand. I mean, it'd be wonderful if we could all understand that. Yeah. Like truly. Yeah. I don't know that we ever will. Probably not. If we can at least grasp it and accept it, that will give us peace.
Yeah. Without Jesus, there is no peace.
Exactly. And I mean, if I'm just afraid of going to hell all the time, there's no peace in me. No. And if I'm afraid that can never do enough check boxes to get there, I have no peace about that. Yeah. If I'm constantly concerned about making it, I have no peace and I can't stand firm. Yeah. And we can't stand firm for others. Like if we're fearful, I mean, how can I encourage others to embrace their fears or push through their fears and anxieties and give that to God if I can't do it? Yeah. And if there's no, and it kind of goes back to the fruits of the Spirit. Like, how do I, if I'm not producing those fruits, how can I give to others? Yeah. And protect those around me and teach others. It's like, and we're parents, we're trying to teach our kids these things. How can we do it? We can't just do the whole do as I say, not as I do thing. Yeah. That doesn't work. It's a parental tactic. No. They see through it and they don't listen.
No. They're going to default to you.
Yes.
They're going to default to what you did or how you taught them. And that's what's scary, is because it's not just the things that you say, it's the things that you do. And they pick up on your vibe, to borrow a term from the kids these days.
Oh yeah, man. It's a whole vibe.
It's a whole vibe.
No cap.
Thank you for listening to the Stand Like Men podcast. Tune in next week for the second half of this episode of Protecting Others with the Armor of God.
Our verse is 1 Corinthians 16, 13, and 14.
Be watchful.
Stand firm in the faith. Act like men. Be strong.
Let all that you do be done in love.